So I want to set the stage for you. And it was March of 2008. And I was on trial with a very complicated trial that was probably going to take about 4 weeks. Will Ferrell's Semi-Pro was the hit movie out at the time. And Flo Rida's Low topped the charts. And the price of a stamp was 41 cents. And you're thinking to yourself, why does Jay know the price of a stamp in March of 2008? And it's because I was scheduled to start my trial on Monday. And as the procrastinator that I am, if you've read Tiger Tactics, I was in the office on a Saturday afternoon, and I needed to get something out in the mail. And there was 38 cents left in the postage account, and I needed to print a 41-cent stamp. And I didn't know how to add money to the meter. And I couldn't send the mail out that I needed to do. And I was in the office probably for an hour and a half, just trying to figure, how do I do this? I got to log in. I don't have the username. What's the password? Is there a credit card? I have to do, it's sending an email to somebody to authenticate this. Who's that person? Because it's asterisks at Ruane attorneys. But I don't know who the asterisks are, so I don't know what staff member to call. And that's when I got to a point and I said, there has to be a better way. Because I can't have this stress in my life 2 days before I start a big trial. And so what I did was leave a note saying, get this in the mail first thing Monday morning. I can't figure it out, on the desk of my assistant, Emily. And with that, I wrote out to Emily and Paulette, Emily's still with me, I need your help. Write out everything that you do for the next 2 weeks, just the title of what you do while I am away on trial. Because we need to build a way that we can document it so the next time I need postage, I am not freaking out for an hour and a half, stressed out beyond belief. And I came back from, and I said to them, I'm going to give you $500 if you do this. I wasn't paying them much at the time, and $500 was a lot of money. So the two of them sat down, legal pad in hand, while I was nowhere to be found, off in court doing my thing, and they wrote out the names of every little thing that they did. And so we came back, and they said, here are the legal pads. That's what you told us to do. Where's our money? And I said, oh, wait, I forgot to tell you the second part of the project to get the 500. I need you to document the steps for each one of those things. And they said, okay. They started getting to work. And it started, and we built a paper binder, because I was a trial lawyer. I used a trial notebook, and it made sense to me. We had these big, thick binders in the office. And they built a paper binder of everything that they did in the office and the steps that they took to do it. And that was the beginning of my love for systems, and it has allowed me to scale the firm from 2 part-time college students, Paulette and Emily, to where we are today. And the purpose of developing systems is to get the information that you have, or they have, or someone in your office has, and get it out of their head onto paper so everyone shares the same firm brain, right? And that's really what it comes down to. And there's really only 3 things you need to know to be able to develop a system. And so what we've created is our system for building systems that you can apply in your office when you go back after this conference. And as lawyers, we know that words matter on the page. We know that punctuation matters on the page. How many people here are fans of the Oxford comma? I know I am. See, how many people hate the Oxford comma? There are people that are raising their hand mildly. I don't like it. But the reality is punctuation will be your guide. And there are 3 things you need to know: the question mark, the exclamation part, and the period. And if you can retain that from this presentation, you have everything you need to build the systems that will take your firm to the next level. First thing we do, We define what is the problem. What is the problem we are solving? What is it? And so that is that line on the piece of paper, added postage to the meter. Interestingly enough, that was the fourth thing on Emily's list that I had. I told her to do it first. She had to do other things before she got to that. And that's important to know, that your systems are going to be a work in progress, and they are going to encounter multiple steps along the way. It's a constant revision of your systems. These are a living, breathing part of your office. Your systems are never set in stone. They are set in stone for the purposes of, we do it this way. We'll talk about that in a moment. But you constantly have to review and revise them as you grow your practice. What worked for you as a solo with a part-time assistant with revenues under $200,000 a year will not work for you when you are at $2 million, $5 million a year and have a staff of 14 lawyers and 10 support staff, or however you do it. Next question, well, next statement actually is, why this way? So we've got the question mark, we've got the exclamation part. Why this way is important? Why this way is important because your staff is there to help you, but they don't see what you do every day. They interact with you, but you are the lawyer. You have so much going on in your brain, and you are making judgment calls and decisions that they don't appreciate because they don't know to appreciate it. And here's an example why. I, as a trial lawyer, handle criminal defense cases, mainly DUI cases. Throughout the course of my career, my support staff knows Jay wants the police report in his trial notebook to be on yellow paper. Now, for many people, you'd say, well, that's weird. You know, that's odd. Why do I have to do it that way? It means I have to take the paper out of the copy machine, put in yellow paper, have it printed. It interrupts the flow. So we explain why. I tell my staff, when I'm in the moment doing a cross-examination and I need to impeach that officer, I need the document to be able to impeach that officer. I can go to my trial notebook, flip it open, a sea of white paper, and I can spot the yellow. And I can quickly just pull out the yellow that I need and walk over without even thinking and knowing that I'm going to have the correct document to impeach my arresting officer on the stand. And by explaining that to your staff, they get to, oh, okay, that's why this is important. And they feel part of it. So you want to give them the why, not because it's going to, you don't want to be the person who says, this is the way it's done, this is the only way it's done. We're not drill sergeants in the Army who are making decisions for people that affect people's lives. You need to include your staff to get them to carry you along the way. And really, it is a one-way street in our office. This is the way. And for those of you who knew me from a couple of years ago, I came dressed as Santa Claus. I almost got dressed up as the Mandalorian to say this is the way. But I decided I didn't want to do that this year. I couldn't find a Mandalorian costume that fit. It just happens. They don't make them for guys my size. But you need to demonstrate to your team that this is the one way we do things. Because as you scale, as you grow, you want the people in one office doing the same thing as people do in another office. You want your lawyers approaching cases the same way. Because there may be an opportunity where one lawyer, like if Seth was a practicing lawyer, got hit by a bus. You need the next lawyer to come in and be able to pick up that file, know where everything is, know how to approach things, and not have to recreate things from scratch. You've already invested the time. You've paid people to do it. We have one way. Our firm is a one-way street. And the last thing as part of your steps is going to be how we do it, period. Reinforcing that there is one way. This isn't a question. This isn't a how we do it, comma. This is how we do it, period. Now, you're open to suggestions. You're open to feedback. You'll be open to changing things if there's a better, smarter, faster, more appropriate, more ethical way of doing things. But the period is important because the period means you can rely on it. The period means that your team can rely on it, and you can be absent from the office and know things are going to get done. So say it with me. First thing is a question mark. Second thing is a last thing is a absolutely. And that's the system you're going to use to build your systems as you go forward from today. Now, there are things that you can include in your systems processes. Images and documents. YouTube or Loom walkthroughs, very easy to use. And I'm not saying you're doing it. Your team will be creating these, and it will open your eyes to what they have to do to get things done. You can include sample motions, form letters that you use frequently. These are the wonderful things that you don't have to replicate over and over and over again. In our firm, we've represented 5,000 plus DUI clients. Those clients have either gotten one of two different letters towards the end of their case, over and over and over again. And if people deviate, they're not part of our system, they're out the door. Login information. How many times have you been in a situation where you've gone to a website, you've tried to log in, you don't know the password, you reset the password, you put in a password to set it again, and they say can't be the same as the last password used. Keep a repository, and the great thing about this is you can put them in a password-protected PDF, you can store it in plenty of opportunities, but give the login information as appropriate to your staff. You can set levels of permission. Basically, whatever you have in your head that needs out goes into your systems. Because you want to avoid this. Our people are there. They work for us to help us. If we do not give them the tools they need to help us, we are failing them as employers. We are creating more work for ourselves, and we are simply not giving us the opportunity to succeed in our firms. The reality is every single person who works for you wants your job to be easier. Because when you're having it go easy, you're in a better mood, you close more business, they get raises. They don't like walking into a job that is full of anxiety. What am I going to do today? What nuclear explosion is going to go off when I open the door? That sort of tension does not create an efficient and fun place to work. And in situations like this, during the Great Resignation, people will leave if they don't have a clear-cut idea of where they're going. So you want to avoid this. And think about your systems. Go back. Everybody here is old enough. Before we had GPS on our phones, you would use MapQuest to get directions to go visit a friend. MapQuest didn't know that you were leaving from your house. So they literally told you, turn on your own street. And you're thinking, well, I know how to get out of my freaking neighborhood. You don't have to give me that. But MapQuest didn't know that. So they gave you directions from exactly where you were telling them they were. Now, the problem with MapQuest is they told you to go north. And I defy anybody to know, pulling out of your driveway, which way is north and which way is south. People just don't think like that. But having those systems allow them to give directions to people who will use it all over the world, and it works for them. Now, one of the biggest challenges with systems is getting the team to want to work on systems. I'm a nerd. I like talking about systems because it helps me grow and scale my firm and gives me a level of confidence, and it allows me truly to feel comfortable walking away from my firm to do things like this. Many times, lower level staff will say, I don't want to build that system because that's going to mean I could lose my job. Well, yeah, it does mean that. But if you make yourself valuable to me, I will not remove your job. I may move you up the chain. You may start managing people and that type of thing. But there's things you can do. Number one, you want to involve them in the process. You want to get their feedback and ask them, how can we do this better? How can we cut steps out of this? How can we save money on doing these things? Because they have ideas, they just don't think you're open to hearing them. When you do that, an engaged workforce will work better for you. You can gamify it, sort of like what I did with Paulette and Emily. I offered them money to accomplish certain things. We've done contests in the past where people look, I will say, oh, in the intake systems, I misspelled some words. Find the entry that has that. And I get them going through all of the things as a refresher. I give them rewards for finding those errors. I give them rewards for, hey, I need to update a system because they changed the way the court docketing system works, and it just rolled out, and I'm going to rewrite a whole new system for it. You're going to reward that behavior because you're encouraging people to update. We do presentations in the office among some of the support staff of, here's the new systems I created. And you march to greatness. Right now, we were at over 1,500 systems. We're in the middle of our audit, and I'm rewarding somebody who's saying, these systems are obsolete. We got rid of them. We're cutting it down so that people don't do the wrong things. You want to ask the question daily. Hey, what'd you find in your systems repository? We call it Ruane in our office. John Fisher calls it Fisherpedia. We ask that question all the time because we want people to refer to that. If somebody comes to you and has a question, your first response should be, did you check the systems manual? And if they say no, send them there and say, come back to me when you've done that and you don't have an answer. Because 50% of the time, the answer will be in there. And you're training them, like Pavlov's dog, to go back to the systems manual. And we may be systems oriented, but not all of our staff are at first, but we'll get them there together. But more importantly, if they then come back to you and say, there's nothing in there, bing, 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 now you have a system that they can create for you, and you could work with them on it, and you're involving them in the process. And then the last thing we do is our corrections contest, where every year, the last week between Christmas and New Year's, the staff has free reign to look at everything, and we reward them if they find a certain number of corrections that have to be made. And it's important to use your staff and say, this is our team, this is our playbook, right? I mean, if you play professional football, you get a playbook. When you're on offense, they also issue you the defense playbook, and you're supposed to be familiar with it. You don't have to know it hardcore, but you know we have a defense and they have a playbook as well. So there are systems that you're going to need, and these are the systems that you need to start with identifying and making sure that you have them. The first, the most important one, is going to be in case of emergency. And in case of emergency is a system that will take a while for you to build, but it is important to have. What's an emergency? The wonderful thing is you'll get to define it. What's the emergency? Client didn't show up for court. How do we handle that? What's the emergency? The internet went down at the office. How do we fix that? Who do we call? What's our account number? Who's the authorized person to speak on the account? In case of emergency, there's an active shooter around our office. What do we do? These are the things you need to prepare for and have a system in place so that you can do it. Software licenses. This information is critical because if you're sitting on a trial somewhere or on a boat in the Caribbean and your Microsoft Office subscription has expired and somebody needs to revalidate it, they will be sitting at their desk doing nothing until they talk to you. Well, what if you're unavailable for 8 hours or 3 days? They need to have access to the software license information so that they can update and keep their computers and say, who's our IT person if there's malware detected? You need to have that so that people can get to it. The standard forms that are used in the office, notices of appearance, notices of continuances, those types of things should also be standardized so that your frontline person knows where to look for them and can get them and limp their way through it in an emergency. You know, my paralegal didn't show up today. Somebody has to step in for me. They know everything that they need to know is going to be in our system so that they can do their job for the day. And most importantly, set out and define your new client intake and retention systems so that everybody is aware when a call comes in, what do we do next? How do we make sure that they're on the email list? And a lot of these things can be done through automation, through technology. But if you have it done through technology, Make sure those steps are documented somewhere for when the zap fails. Somebody knows how to go in and fix it. Those types of things. So there's plenty of systems. I would defy any business to not have 1,000 plus after a year of looking at these things. Now, if you love systems like I do, and you want to join my systems group, this will be an opportunity for you to join a group where I post systems multiple times a week that you can cut and paste and put into your own repository. Just take out your phone and take a picture of the, grab the QR code there. And there's plenty of systems providers that are out there. We can talk about building your own wiki like some of us have done. There's Tetra, there's Trainual, there's Guru, there's ProcessStreet, Kipwise, Slab. We started with a simple Word document. You can do it with a Google document that can be shared freely among your office. It's not important which provider you pick. It's important that you actually use it. Too many of us will say, well, I'm gonna sign up for Tetra and that's gonna solve my problem. And then 4 months later, you have a login and 4 months of credit card payments and nothing to show for it. My recommendation is start with that Google Doc and start getting into a flow, into a rhythm. You know? Start documenting and then pick which system that works for you. You can go on YouTube, watch all the walkthroughs of every single one, find the one that works for you, and adopt it, implement it, and go with it. But don't just say, I'm going to buy one and expect my job to be over. Your job starts when you pick which one. So I say, just go with a simple Google document and start documenting things. At the end of the day, losers just have goals, but the winners have systems to get them there. So be a winner, develop your systems, and you can do that. If you ever want to talk to me, here's my contact card. You can grab it, take your camera out. This will put my contact information directly into your contact address. This is a great thing that you can offer and set up a QR code to your contact so that you can offer clients and other people so that they can get your number right into their phone. So it's a great little trick that you can do for marketing yourself. I don't carry business cards. Their time was I would carry 100 business cards in my pocket. I don't do that anymore. I used to pay my staff if they caught me without a business card. And then I realized once, I'm not giving away business cards. If someone wants to talk to me about a case, I'm taking their information and I'm following up. I'm not relying on them. I'm not relying on them to call me. I'm going to call them directly myself. That's my system for getting new clients. But that's it for me. Thank you all so much. I think Gary will be here to talk a little bit about lunch. I appreciate you. Have a great rest of the presentations.